Okay, let's keep going. I mentioned just at the very end of the last video that Hamlet and Fortinbras are mirror images, right? They're both princes. In both cases, their fathers are dead. In both cases, you would think those princes would be the new kings. In both cases, they are not the new kings. In both cases, their uncles are the new kings. So they're mirror images. But one of the things, sometimes people use the expression mirror image to mean doubling, like a mirror, because a mirror makes two. And Hamlet, and you can certainly think of Hamlet and Fortinbras as being they have a lot in common. Like what I just described to you is doubles, two people who have the same situation. But the other thing a mirror does is that when you talk about they're mirrors of each other, it's also worth pointing out that a mirror uh, reverses you, it flips you. And so what's interesting to me isn't just that Hamlet and Fortinbras have in very similar situations, but that in some ways, like the way a mirror will flip you backwards, will flip your face side to side, the other thing that happens with the mirror is that it reverses you. And so it's one of the things we're thinking about Hamlet and Fortinbras is they're in the same situation, but they deal with it in opposite ways. Fortinbras Fortinbras, the name, by the way, Fortinbras literally means strong arm. By the way, I assume nobody knows Wrinkle in Time, but if you do know Wrinkle in Time, I feel like in one of the later books of the Wrinkle in Time, the family dog is named Fortinbras. I don't know if that's in the movie. I didn't even see the movie. Should I see the movie? I got nothing to do. Um, so it's an interesting little detail, I think, that it's not just that they're similar, but that they are mirror images of one another. Again, the kind of thing you will miss if you read a summary, the kind of thing you will miss if it's edited in any way. You have to really notice these little details or you won't see that. Okay, let's just, and because the whole point is this is supposed to be an illustration of Brooks, so let's see. All right. So now I'm on page 11. Now a bunch of stuff happened, and we had the whole Polonius says goodbye to Laertes, and it gives advice to Laertes and Ophelia and all of this stuff. And then on page 11, the king have Rosencrantz and Guildenstern kind of follow Hamlet around, and then the two people that were sent to Norway to talk about this kid invading, Voltimand and Cornelius, they come back and they say, "Let me tell you how it went with the king of Norway." Remember, they're in Remember, Shakespeare lives in England. He wrote the play, but Hamlet and that play takes place in Denmark, which is north of England. It's a country north of England, and one of Denmark's next door neighbors is Norway, which is where Fortinbras is from. So just to be clear about that. So Voltimand comes from when we last left them. Claudius sent Voltimand to Norway. "Can we stop this kid?" he said to the king. "Let's stop your nephew from invading me." And now Voltimand comes back to say how it went. Good news, it went really well. The thing about this plot is that it's two things. Number one, the Fortinbras story, extremely important. Number two, the Fortinbras story is pretty boring. Like it's about a play with poisonings and murder and the stealing of the crown. This whole story about like sending ambassadors over to another country to like ask for this kid to not invade you, and the kid's barely in the play. But it's important. You got to follow it, but it's not the most interesting part of Hamlet. By the way, I mentioned earlier that Hamlet and Fortinbras are mirror images of each other. Same situation, different responses. Notice, by the way, that King Claudius and King Hamlet are also mirrors of each other because they have very similar situations. They're both being attacked by a guy named Fortinbras. Deal with it in very different ways, opposite ways. King Hamlet goes to war. Claudius sends ambassadors to see if he can talk his way out of this problem. Hilariously, that's exactly what happens. He does successfully talk himself out of the problem. Voltimand comes back and says, "Most fair returns with greetings and desires. Upon our first meeting, as soon as we got there, he sent out to suppress his nephew's levies. He stopped his nephew's, Fortinbras's, war, his soldiers, which to him appeared to be a preparation against the Pollock, but better looked into, he truly found it was against your highness." So he knew his kid was putting an army together, but he thought it was to invade a totally different country, Poland. But when he looked into it closely, he was like, "Oh shit, you're secretly planning on invading Denmark." So he stopped him. This is a very silly story, but he stopped him. The king of Norway successfully stopped his nephew Fortinbras because he wants to invade Denmark. And he says he feels bad that this whole thing happens, whereat grieved that his sickness, age, and impotence was falsely borne in hand, meaning the king of Norway feels bad that because he's so sick and weak, he didn't even know that his kid was going to invade Denmark, and he's so sorry, Denmark. And he wants to say he's sorry to everybody. He sends out arrests on Fortinbras, right? I mean, not in jail, but he stops him, which he, in brief, obeys. receives rebuke from Norway, meaning he gets in trouble with the king, his uncle, and in fine makes a vow before his uncle never more to give the assay of arms against your majesty. Right? So this is a stupid story, right? That Fortinbras, that Claudius sends Voltimand to the king of Norway and says, "Hey, can you stop your kid from invading us?" And the king of Norway goes, "Oh shit, I didn't know he was invading you. I thought he was invading Poland. And I'm going to stop him. He's going to get in trouble." And then the kid apologizes and says, "I'm sorry, uncle. I promise never to invade Denmark again." It's dumb. But notice, again, talk about Hamlet and Fortinbras being mirror images, and again, meaning very similar but also reversed. Please notice that as similar as their situations are, Fortinbras is a man of war and Hamlet is a man of words. Notice also, when Fortinbras' uncle tells him to do something, he listens. When Hamlet's uncle tells him to do something, he does not. It's another little detail about those characters. So let's keep going. Now we get some stupid. This gets funny now. Now this is, I think this is the funniest part of the whole play, really, but the whole Fortinbras story. But it's hard to see unless you're paying attention to those details, like Clantebrook says you should. So he says, he promises never to fight. Whereupon old Norway, that's the king of Norway, overcome with joy, gives him 70,000 crowns an annual fee. So he's so happy that the kid's listening to him. He gives him a pile of money, and commissioned to employ those soldiers, so levity as before, against the Polak, with an entreaty further shown that it might please you to give quiet pass through your dominion for this enterprise of such regard and safety and allowance that all are set down. It likes as well. That's hilarious. I imagine you don't see how funny that is, because it's kind of buried in there, but it's funny. Fortinbras Jr. said, "Oh man, Fortinbras Jr. was like, oh man, I'm going to invade Poland," but really it was a lie. He was invading Denmark, and when the king caught him, he got in trouble, and the kid apologized. And then the king is like, "You know what? You're such a good kid. How about, since you already got the army together, why don't you just go ahead and invade Poland?" Like Poland, Fortinbras never wanted to invade Poland. He was just lying. But since he's got the army already, you might as well, you're not going to do anything with him, you might as well send him off to invade Poland. And so that's what he does. Poland is about to get the shit kicked out of it for no reason other than the fact that Fortinbras picked Poland as where he lied to his uncle that he was going. And then the uncle was like, "Yeah, you might, as long as you got the army together, might as well just go ahead and invade Poland." He doesn't want to invade Denmark because he's buddies with Denmark, but fuck Poland. Like that, it's funny that Poland is getting completely screwed here. Just, it's bad luck. It's just a lie Fortinbras told, and then the uncle's like, "Nah, might as well just go invade Poland." This is how war happens. It's stupid. It's not like there's no. They're not getting revenge against Poland. At least when Fortinbras was invading Denmark, there was a reason, right? Your dad killed my dad, and then he took his land, and I want it back. But with Poland, it's just like he's just, "Nah, I got nothing else to do. I'm gonna go invade Poland, go to war." So these guys are really just, this is just stupid. And this story gets much, much funnier. Okay, so let's go to the next section of this. All right, so I'm having a little trouble with my phone lately. I think the previous video, by the way, might be a little screwed up in terms of how it looks. You should be able to hear me just fine. Okay, so let's go grab kind of the next part of this story. And then the actors come. You know what, actually, I'm going to stop this video because I can see it's going to take me a little while to find the right page. See you guys in the next video.